as I said, it's been 25 years. It was established by a group of soldiers who had gotten out of the Army after 9/11, or before 9/11, and then 9/11 happened, and they said, "Oh my gosh, our former comrades are now going off to war. What can we do to help them?" And they established this scholarship foundation to help provide scholarships to children of soldiers and spouses of active duty enlisted soldiers. So 25 years, we've given thousands of scholarships for millions of dollars. Our first 23 years, if you will, we were all volunteer, no paid staff. It was run by a group of about 25 to 50 volunteers across the country who were helping us to raise money.
Unfinished business, stand up tall.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions. Some leaders understand the mission. Some understand the system behind it. A rare few will understand both and know exactly where to apply that experience next. Jeff Gault has operated at scale, 5 tours in Europe, deployments during Desert Shield and Desert Storm. He later served in senior roles at Boeing and Raytheon working on national defense initiatives. He understands what it takes to protect the nation. But what defines Jeff is where he chose to focus next. As CEO of Army Scholarship Foundation, the Army Scholarship Foundation, Jeff now directs that experience towards strengthening military families. Millions of dollars in scholarships, thousands of Army family members supported. He understands something fundamental. Force readiness begins at home. Stability in a household shapes strength everywhere. This is leadership that reinforces the foundation first. Jeff, Mr. Gault, it's a pleasure to have you on Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions. I always ask each guest that when I read the cold opening, what's something that hits you?
I say, who is that guy? Rush, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Army Scholarship Foundation and the successes we have had in helping our Army families.
Yes, I had the very good fortune of attending the Army Scholarship Foundation many years ago. I don't know, it was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago when you had it, and you and Rob Altman and some of the other guys. I got to interview at the foundation. It was kind of my first coming out party as far as trying to shed light on veteran advocacy. And I gotta say, I was first of all, when you're starting to go down veteran spaces, it's a growing moment. You don't know how many spaces there are for for veteran advocacy, and learning about the Army Scholarship Foundation during that time was inspiring, to be honest with you, and listening to the sound bites as I was preparing for. I've always wanted you on my podcast. I'll just tell you straight up, and because I thought you had a high level understanding of what veteran advocacy means, and what it means to families, what it means from guys that are people that are the families back at home trying to keep the pieces of their life together. So COVID and all the other nuances along the way got in the way of that, and but better late than never. And I'm glad you're here in my home. It's an honor to have you in my home. Like I told Chuck just a few minutes ago, this is the first time I'm opening a home to the space, and have your spirit and the things you represent in the Rush household is a beautiful thing. I just want to let you know that.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me, and congratulations on really growing and spreading your wings with the successful podcast. It's really come a long way, and I'm glad that you have been able to get such a wonderful audience here in the North Texas area, and hopefully worldwide.
Yes, and that's the goal, right? Is to educate people and inform them about opportunities and resources that are made available to those who serve and their family members, and beyond that. Jeff, when you first raised your hand to serve in the United States Army, is that correct?
Yes.
The United States Army, what did you think responsibility would feel like, and how did that understanding evolve over time?
Oh gosh. Well, I actually raised my hand twice to serve.
Wow.
I went to the U.S. Military Academy, and when you first report in on your very first day, the 1st of July, as a cadet, you have to take an oath of allegiance to of course, to the Constitution. And I did it at that time. I was 17 years old, just ready to embark on a college career and, starting a military lifestyle, if you will. I had no idea what responsibility meant and what I was getting into at that time. So it was really more with trepidation than anything else. And then when I graduated 4 years later, and raised my hand again and took the oath of office as a commissioned lieutenant, then by that time, the notion of responsibility had begun to sink in, and I had started to learn a lot more about what I was heading off to in a career as a soldier, knowing that I would soon have a platoon of 30 or so soldiers that I would be responsible for, to lead them and to train them, when I, at that point, as a novice, knew very little myself. So my sense of responsibility evolved both while I was a cadet in college and then as a young officer. And then, of course, throughout my later career, it continued to evolve.
Wow. So 21 years old, and you had your own platoon.
Yes, yes.
Wow, that's pretty. How did that's pretty supercharged. How did that?
Well, it's not unusual though. I mean, most second lieutenants, their first job is as a platoon leader, be it infantry or quartermaster corps or what have you. So I knew that would be my first step along my career journey, and had studied all along to do that. So it was just something I knew was going to happen.
That is amazing. During your time at Desert Shield and Desert Storm, was there a moment that clarified for you what leadership truly meant in real time, in real terms? I'm sorry.
Well, I had of course, being over there for almost a year, Desert Shield, there was really not much going on other than sitting and waiting and training and preparing. And then the Air War started, and I was the deputy commander of a Patriot Brigade. We had oversight or responsibility for all of the 7 battalions of air defense that were in country, from Tabuk all the way to Dhahran, and all the way north to the border with Kuwait and Iraq at the outset during the Air War. And it's funny. The first thing that really struck me was when we had the first barrage. I was in Riyadh at the time. When we had the first barrage of Scuds that attacked, I was in the Third Army headquarters, and what struck me, we didn't know if they had chemical weapons, and we had been told to expect chemical weapons, and that we were going to be attacked with some sort of chem bio, which they had used against Iraq previously, or Iran previously. And what I was astounded when I saw the fear on the part of so many senior officers who were really near paralyzed when the Scud alerts went off, and people were scurrying to. I mean, some of them you didn't want to get in their way, heading for the Scud bunkers and putting on their chemical suits and the gas masks and everything. I was just surprised at the different reactions by different people, and some who you would have thought would have not exhibited fear, but rather would have been able to exhibit leadership and presence of mind. And so it was very diverse. People change when they're under fire. The second example was again during a major Scud attack, and they were exploding above us, and we had a Patriot crew that went out of the Scud bunkers. We had fired all the missiles off the launchers, and they had to go out and reload, and we were having explosions overhead. And we had about 10 soldiers that went out there and braved that to go through the reload procedure, the crew drills that they had practiced daily forever, to do that under fire. And it was later my great opportunity and pleasure to be able to decorate some of these guys for their bravery while all those rockets were going off over their heads.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're probably one of the first men that I understand your story when it came to like your second lieutenant was having these breakdowns, because I was out there during that time too, and I was shocked. I was like, "What are we doing here? Like, we just got here. Like, we just landed like 5 minutes ago, and it's pretty alarming when you have when your life is in someone's hands that's in in a leadership position like that. And you're the first person I heard that story resonated with me, because I remembered that. You served 5 tours in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
What did sustained service teach you about leadership that crisis moments cannot?
Oh gosh. Well, I was fortunate, I thought, to serve 5 tours in Europe, 4 in Germany and 1 in the Netherlands at a NATO headquarters. And of course, these were at progressively higher levels, starting out, as I mentioned, as a lieutenant, as a platoon leader. And I rose up to higher levels, battalion executive officer, battalion commander. And you learn teamwork is so important. Teamwork is and trust. Trust is the glue that holds teams together. Leadership and the cohesiveness of your team are so important that that's what leadership is all about. You've got to build the trust of your soldiers, and working on that as you go higher and higher and higher in various positions. Also, the importance of our host nation, the German-American relations, and the responsibility for that, and the service of those soldiers and our hosts is very, very important. And so I learned how important host nation relations were, both in terms of our hosting us and allowing us to maneuver on some of their farmers' fields, as well as hosting us in their homes in many cases, and as landlords for our soldiers and their families, and all of the sacrifices that they make. So we had numerous crises while I was there. Traffic accidents, soldiers injured or killed. Fortunately, I didn't have any killed in traffic accidents, but I certainly saw more than my share in adjacent units or elsewhere. So as you progress in the levels of responsibility, the nature of the leadership somewhat changes, if you will, and you have to, when you're responsible for 30 guys, that's one thing. When you're responsible for 1,000 guys and their families, it's a little different.
Yeah. Wow. I could see that, what does it feel like to be responsible for 1,000 men and women?
You're always on the go. I had, it was a Hawk missile battalion.
Mm.
I had a headquarters battery, 4 firing batteries, and a support battery, a maintenance battery. And they were spread all over a whole section of Germany. So I was always on the go. 150 miles from one battery to the other battery.
Wow.
And the commander has to be present. If you're going to be a leader, the soldiers have to know you. I mentioned earlier that trust is the glue that holds a unit together. You've got to develop the trust. You've got to display the leadership and the integrity in your acts and your decisions in dealing with the soldiers. And so to do that, you got to be present. You have to visit your soldiers. You have to get to know their families. You have to get to know them and their jobs, as well as, of course, their equipment.
Hmm. Would you consider that humanized leadership?
Yes, yeah, very much so. I mean, you've gotta get to know the soldiers and build up their trust and confidence.
Yeah, I could see that, especially. I think one of the compelling things is that, as I mentioned at the start, is that you know the stability at home. Is having understanding that stability at home is what's going to make it's going to keep that soldier at a peace of mind. When you transitioned into senior defense leadership roles, what surprised you most about how influence operates at that level?
Uh, I thought it's relationships. I knew relationships were important in the military. I didn't realize how important relationships were at the in industry, if you will. You have engineers and you have people who are technical experts in working in the scientific and developmental aspects of the various systems that we worked with. At Boeing and at Raytheon, we were in Army systems primarily, or missile defense systems. I also worked on some border initiatives at Boeing. Um, it, it's as much who you know as it is what you know, and the who you know in many cases, most cases, is far more important than what you know. And so if you're trying to persuade somebody to a certain point of view, or you're trying to set up a meeting to brief a senior defense official or procurement people, how you go about it and the folks you know are so important in developing success and progress.
Yeah, I would imagine that you have different companies, I guess, trying to come together for the same cause.
Yeah,
Is it?
the teamwork. Well, in two aspects. One is you have competition. You have Lockheed Martin may be trying to sell a certain type of radar, that Raytheon is working on the same similar type radar, and there's a competition there, and then there's down selects and so on and so forth. But also you work with teammates. Companies have different levels of skill and expertise in different areas, and so they have to combine to put together a proposal uh, to achieve certain goals or to win a contract from the government. So you have to collaborate, but you also are competing in many respects in defense industry, which is a different thing. The competition is different from when you're in uniform. In uniform, it's kind of like cooperate and graduate. You all have the same objective. You may have two infantry battalions side by side. Yeah, there may be competition, but really not in the sense that you have in industry when two people are competing for the same weapons contract or a radar contract or what have you.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting. At what point did you begin to see that supporting military families as a strategic? At what point did you begin to see supporting military families as a strategic priority, not just a philanthropic?
Well, I mentioned, of course, military families when you're in uniform. The families of your unit, your soldiers, are so important. They used to say in the Army, it's not a soldier who reenlists, it's the family who reenlists, because they go through the hardships, the moves, the many the deployments, and all the other things. And when I got out, I retired. My wife actually went to work for in Washington, D.C. While I was with Boeing. She went to work with the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation. And I learned about this organization that had been around by then for 30, 40 years, and they gave scholarships to children of Marines. It was established when a group of Marines found out that a World War II Medal of Honor recipient was destitute and couldn't afford to send his own child to college. So a bunch of these Marines got together and had a big dinner to raise some money to pay for his kid's college. And then they said, hey, this is not a bad idea. Let's do this and expand it across the Marine Corps. And so she was working there while I was working at Raytheon. And I realized, I attended a number of their events, and I began to realize how helping these military families, how much that impacted upon the readiness of the units. And then later I got the opportunity to step into the position with the Army Scholarship Foundation, and it was just reinforced. I mean, the military family members go through so much, deployments, different schools, challenges, the fear of deployment, when you're military, usually it's the dad is deployed. If the phone rings or the doorbell rings, you catch your breath for a minute. There's an instant little. And that's when I began to realize that there was this really, really important strategic value to families, to the service. And the services writ large, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, they realize that, but there's not a whole lot that they can do to really, really help those families and those family members that are in need in that particular way, educationally.
Yeah. I had, I don't know if you know who Shiloh Harris is.
Yes.
I was just recently on his podcast, actually a couple of days ago. He invited me to come on the podcast, talk about my story. And we talked about the hardest part of being deployed or being in combat is the heart ones, the ones at home, the ones that you're worried about, the ones you care about. And we talked about how much stress it causes individuals. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's, I don't want to say easier. It's different nowadays than it used to be.
Yeah.
I think about, first you think about the World War II, the greatest generation. And those soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, they went off for 2 or 3 years. And the only communication between them and the family was written letters that had to go through a censor to mark out anything that you couldn't write. And I've heard stories about, families who received the last letter from their loved one a week after they'd been notified that he had been killed in action. And then, of course, progress, if you will. By the time I was in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and then my later deployment, we still didn't have internet. Cell phones were out there, but it was like a big brick. You didn't have the little flip phones or the things you had. So even then, communications was a challenge to your family. Whereas nowadays, even when deployed, even in combat zones, families are able to at least communicate. They'll have a video conference or they'll be able to call during lulls or so on. So there is a little bit better communication now between the families and the military, but it's been a challenge all along over time. And it's of course one of the most difficult things that our families and our units have to deal with.
Yeah. You could go on and on about that. With the Army Scholarship Foundation awarding scholarships at scale, how do you stay connected to the individual stories behind the numbers?
Well, first of all, I have to say there are so many individual stories. Every story is unique. Every family is somewhat different. And it's very hard. I mean, we get well over 1,000 applications every year, and we are in that application period now. They're coming in every day, new applications. Our application window is open from the 15th of January to the 15th of April. And as I say, 1,000 come in, and The sad part is that we're not able to give all of those 1,000+ kids and spouses of active duty soldiers a scholarship. Less than half, really, that we're able to fund just due to our financial situation. You never have enough money to do everything you want to do.
Yeah.
But one thing is, I read every single application. So all of these 1,000, I will personally go through each and every one of them. And of course, there are stories that jump out to you, heartaches. I read this morning in scoring some of them, looking at them and reading them. At least 2 families of KIA in action. Stories of these are high school kids whose father, usually the father, oftentimes it's the mother, but it's usually the father. 3 tours in Iraq, 2 tours in Afghanistan. I mean, you think how many tours the parent has gone for in harm's way, and what that does to affect a child who's in elementary school, grade school, high school, and of course it gets more challenging for high schoolers. And then you add on top of that, they're moving around. I mean, the kid goes to 7, 8, 9 different schools over the course of their K through 12 experience. That's really a challenge. But we ask these scholarship recipients, tell us your story. Send us your success. Let us know when you graduate. We want to track, and we want to be able to keep up with these unique stories of these family members. And of course, high school kids, they got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So, and not all of them tell us how they're doing, so we can't really keep up with all of their successes, but we stay connected with a lot of them that way. It's a wonderful thing. They'll send us a graduation picture in their gown when they graduate from college. And one thing I have to say that we're really proud of at the Army Scholarship Foundation is that over 90% of our scholarship recipients graduate from college. And if you look nationwide, the graduation rate for college students is somewhere 65% after 6 years. And so we like to think, first of all, that the kids that we're giving scholarships to are deserving, and that they have a drive to better themselves, and that resilience that they develop while growing up in a military family gives them the stick-to-itiveness to continue to graduate, whereas many civilian families don't necessarily have that. So we ask them for their stories. We like to have their stories. We love to tell their stories and what all they've done and the successes that they've enjoyed.
Do you think this Army Scholarship Foundation is a symbol of hope?
Yes, absolutely. We have a young lady here in town who, just to use a couple of stories, who her father was retired disabled from the Army and was unable to work. He later got some menial job, but then he lost that, and the family, the young lady that I'm talking about, had to, as a high schooler, had to go to work as a barista to help the family keep food on the table and have a roof over their head. And so she was forced to give up her aspirations for college. But she kept hoping and applying, and she was getting turned down for scholarships. And then one day she said she got our scholarship, and it was the first one she ever received, and they gave her the hope to keep trying. And she subsequently got a couple more from us, graduated, went to work here in town, got an internship, and is now married and got a kid. And she's just, she gives us much of the credit for her success in giving her the scholarship. We had, this is the 25th year of the Army Scholarship Foundation.
Oh, wow.
We're celebrating 25 years of helping our military kids. And we're reaching out again, these individual stories, we're reaching out to some of our earlier recipients. And we just got a note from our very first scholarship recipient
Oh,
who he went to Arizona State, graduated. It was our scholarship that enabled him to stay there and graduate. Was commissioned in the Army, and he is now 25 years later retiring from the Army as a lieutenant colonel
oh, wow.
and is going off on his second career. And I mean, that really,
Yeah.
we touched his life. You know, he's a married guy with kids now, and embarking on his second career. And those are the stories we like to get from some of these recipients, as you say. But unfortunately, we don't get all that we would like to have.
Yeah. That's so I mean, that's sometimes all it takes, man, is some, you reach your hand out and no, and somebody doesn't, you're reaching for help and you don't get the help, the assistance you need. But then when you do get it, it could it's like a ray of, a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, it opens doors. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah, all you need is a small little sliver of light to come into your heart and see it like that. And I thought that's why it was really important to have you on this podcast, because I know that's what the Army Scholarship Foundation represents, as far as from a larger scale, is that it represents healing, hope, help, holistic. A holistic approach to moving forward in your life, and I just thought it was so important to have you on here. Tell us a little bit about the Army Scholarship Foundation. I know you said it's been 25 years. Talk a little bit about it, and then we'll tie it up with something.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it's been 25 years. It was established by a group of soldiers who had gotten out of the Army after 9/11. Or before 9/11, and then 9/11 happened, and they said, "Oh my gosh, our former comrades are now going off to war. What can we do to help them?" And they established this scholarship foundation to help provide scholarships to children of soldiers and spouses of active duty enlisted soldiers. So, 25 years, we've given thousands of scholarships for millions of dollars. Our first 23 years, if you will, we were all volunteer, no paid staff. It was run by a group of about 25 to 50 volunteers across the country who were helping us to raise money and enhance the scholarships. They started out smaller amounts, $500, and now the average is well over $1,000 per scholarship. As I said, our numbers, over 1,000 applications this year. The application numbers go up by about 10% every year. We try to increase, our biggest issue is to try and give every deserving and qualified Army family member a scholarship. We're failing miserably in that regard, because we're roughly just under half that we're able to give an award to now. So it's all about funds. We would always love to have more money. We have a fundraising event or two throughout the year. We have a big luncheon in the fall. We have donations that can be made online through our website at armyscholarshipfoundation.org. That's also where the students apply. There's an application link for kids and spouses of enlisted soldiers to apply for the scholarship during this window that I said. We have a mailing list for email constant contact that we send out notifications. And then we have campaigns throughout the year. We just finished up here an 11/11 campaign where we asked supporters to donate $11 in the build up to Veterans Day, 11/11.
Yeah.
Donate $11 for in memory of someone a soldier, some family member. Now we're gearing up. We're going to do a 25 for 25 campaign. Make a monthly donation of $25 to honor us in our 25th year. But we'll give out probably $500,000 this year in scholarships.
Wow.
And it's never enough, as I said, so we would love to have more supporters and donators, which can be done, as I said, online at armyscholarshipfoundation.org. We'd love to have people, particularly here in the North Texas area, come to our Help Our Heroes luncheon that we'll have in the fall. We had we've had a very successful luncheon. We've had Captain Grolberg, who is a Frisco area Medal of Honor recipient, has been our speaker in the past. We've had General Joe Martin, former Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, has been a speaker. We've had an astronaut who has come and spoke at our luncheon. So we always have a very interesting speaker who will come and hopefully
Raise some funds.
make it fun. Yeah, it's a great event. We have usually a national anthem is sung by a member of the Army Chorus who joins us from Washington, D.C. And we have a number of other dignitaries from town. Congress people come. Keith Self, who is your local representative here, has been a regular attendee at our luncheons. But that's our hope, is to continue to grow the organization. I'm honestly trying to transition out now and looking for a successor to be a new CEO and run the foundation for the next 10 or 20 years. And as we continue to grow and professionalize our operations. So hopefully we'll do another 25.
Yeah.
And while we're asking 25 for 25, and then we'll ask for 25 for 50.
25 for 50. Let's go. No, that's awesome. That's awesome that you guys are contributing to so many families. $500,000 a year. Well, that's a lot. I will say this, if you ever need, at this event that you have, if you need somebody like you obviously saw how that digital asset has helped you carried its weight for this many years. It brought us back together. I would love to offer myself up to help have some document,
Great.
some sound bits,
thanks.
like that.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to assist you, for free, and I'll go out there and do the same thing the same way I did it the last time, and get some sound bites from some of the participants.
Right. Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
I'd
Yeah.
love to help you in that 100%. Okay, so just let me know when the date is, and we'll see if it doesn't conflict with anything.
Yeah. We really try. We do everything we can to keep our expenses at a bare minimum.
Yeah.
Our legal counsel, legal advice is pro bono. Our webmaster is pro bono. We have all of the various functions that we have to do to keep everything going. Our offices are donated. So we really want to keep our expenses down. And as I said, we were all volunteer up until a couple of years ago. And so, we're keeping our expenses low so that we can give more money to scholarships for deserving military kids.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I do a lot. I just started. Air Power Foundation just made me an ambassador for their organization.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, thank you so much. And part of my job is to do special event correspondence, like I did for your event during that time as well. So just let me know. Just tell me when and where, and we'll see if we can make it. Okay. I got to tell you, Mr. Gault, it's a pleasure to have you finally sit down and talk about what you're passionate about and what how you continue to serve and extending beyond the uniform and how I have a friend that actually got a scholarship from you. Actually,
Oh, really?
Dr.
Great.
Katie Ballio.
Yes.
Yeah, she's
Wonderful.
very sweet. I had her on my podcast, actually, on this podcast, and talked about her roles in women advocacy for veterans. Beautiful conversation. And so I could see you guys are making dynamic impacts, and I know what it's like to receive help. When I reached out for $175 to pay for a bill that I couldn't pay, and I got it, just like it was like that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are-
little penny counts.
We are changing lives.
Yeah.
We truly are.
Yeah.
And we would like to hear more stories from those whose lives we have impacted, because we want to share that with all of our donors and all of our supporters. Because if you make a donation to help a kid go to college, you are helping to change the future.
Absolutely. Okay, last question. As you look ahead, what part of the mission still feels unfinished for you?
Oh gosh. Well, really the fact, as I mentioned, that we're not able to give every qualified and deserving military family member a scholarship.
Yeah.
It's a sad duty when we have to send a note to an applicant and say, "I'm sorry, we weren't able to select you this year." So only being able to satisfy half of the requests is clearly the most unfinished business we have. You know, we want to be able to satisfy 100% of the qualified, deserving military kids who are applying for a scholarship. We want to say yes to them. And so it's funding. You know, to be able to say yes, that's the most important thing. And then, as I mentioned, you know, I'm looking to transition and find a new chief executive officer who can take this organization to an even higher and better level, and he or she can bring in hopefully that money to pay for the other 50% of the applicants who are not able to qualify. So those are probably two of our biggest unfinished businesses, if you will. We'll continue to give scholarships to everybody, and then to help transition to leadership to continue to grow.
Well, that's the reason for the show, Jeff, is to close the gap on the unfinished business and try to make it a little smaller. And I hope we did that for you today.
Well, thank you, Rush.
Giving you guys a platform to talk about what you're doing with the Army Scholarship Foundation today.
Well, thank you so much, Rush.
It's appreciate having you. Wrap up.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, guys, that's it for Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions. As I always say, have peace and light in you, and remember that the ocean refuses no river.
Unfinished business, stand up tall.